General Hospital recaps for Thursday, July 31st show Dante Falconeri having an unpleasant encounter, while Carly Spencer is helicopter momming. Willow Tate also begs Michael Corinthos to work out a plan to see their kids. Dante's awkward meeting. Emma Scorpio Drake searches for her charger, while Anna Devane makes a phone call. The dog enters, anxious to go for a walk. Anna emphasizes that this cannot happen again. They must establish a routine for the dog to guarantee she is constantly cared for. Emma explains that she has a meeting with Professor Henry Dalton tonight. She's trying to stay on his good side so she can steal Jocelyn Jack's position when she's dismissed, while Gio Palmieri rushes for the door. Dante arrives in an awkward moment. He meets the puppy, and Gio expresses his gratitude to Anna for allowing him to stay there. He and Emma then leave. Dante continues talking with Anna. Dante inquires about the seriousness of the matter, to which Anna responds that he and Gio have many similarities. Dante has been striving to let Gio decide the pace, but there has been no progress. He emphasizes that Rocco Falconeri uncovered Britt Westbourne's role in his birth, complicated the situation even further. They intended to inform him later, but he discovered it on his own and contacted Liesl Albrecht, who was delighted to help. Rocco is now wary of his parents. She believes he is simply trying to protect his sons. Dante and Anna talk about the woman Jocelyn put a tracker on, and Anna is concerned about Emma. Dante informs Anna that he has a name, but it's probably a bogus identity, and they wonder if Dalton is involved. Anna informs him about Emma's bizarre ejection and her connection to Dalton. She believes Emma is once again aiming for Dalton. They consider all conceivable ties between Dalton and Emma. Anna is concerned that Emma may become embroiled in something she cannot escape. There's a chance she won't make it. Dante is determined to help her in any way possible. General Hospital recap Thursday, July 31st. Willow begs Michael for help, and Jason receives assistance from Liz. Carly's helicopter momming by the pool. Joss informs Vaughn that the backup tracker went lost for 3 hours before reappearing on the tracking system. Carly arrives and notices them together. She interrupts and requests to speak with her daughter in her office. Joss gives Vaughn a short kiss before leaving with her mother. When they get to the workplace, Joss wonders why her mother has brought her there. Carly is dubious whether Vaughn is a good guy, and Joss is surprised that her mother is monitoring her personal life. Carly mentions that Vaughn is too old for her. Josh dismisses it. Her mother respects her judgment, but after conversing with Anna, she has reservations about Vaughn. They resent how Vaughn appears to be pitting her and Emma against each other. Josh assures her that there is no weird triangle, and that she and Vaughn are not exclusive. General Hospital recap Thursday, July 31st. Willow begs Michael and Jason for help, and Stella buttonholes Curtis about Trina and Kai's breakup. Stella Henry confronts Curtis Ashford, insisting on learning the cause for Trina Robinson and Kai Taylor's breakup. He struggles to provide an explanation. While Stella has made an effort to respect Trina's privacy, she believes the breakup was a mistake. Curtis notes that they suddenly found they have opposing viewpoints on critical issues. She dismisses this and suggests they do some matchmaking to restore their relationship. He objects, believing it is a bad idea. Regardless, she decides to take things into her own hands. Willow pleads with Michael at the Quartermaine mansion. Willow admits to Michael that she misunderstood Drew Kane. He recognizes that her love for Drew were genuine, and Drew had been manipulating her all along. He emphasizes that Drew was the one who prevented her from meeting him in Germany. He claims he would never have refused her. He believes that if they had met that day, much of their current problems could have been prevented, and she begs him to talk about their children. He believes it may be too late, but she begs him to fix their differences so she can see the children. "I don't want the kids to see you," he says. Willow falls apart again. Michael tells Carly. Willow asks how long he plans to punish her. Michael says that he is not punishing her at all. His primary care is for his children, and she is not now a part of that equation. He recognizes she is having enormous obstacles, but she is not approaching the matter from a mother's perspective right now. He recognizes that she has been hurt, but she must focus on her recovery. She pledges she will never forget how he turned her down when she came imploring to see her children. Michael rushes to his mother's office and recounts his interaction with Willow. He is unsure when she will be well enough to be around the children again. Drew arrives at Elizabeth's looking for Willow at Elizabeth Weber's home. Drew professes his wish to aid Willow with reuniting with her children. She informs him that if he truly wants to help, he should step back. She is unable to handle him at the moment, and when Jason Morgan comes, the two men exchange fierce glares. Jason's main reason for being there is to see Liz. Drew reiterates his only objective is to aid Willow and suggests that Jason persuade Michael to let her see her children. Jason thinks Willow will eventually see Drew has damaged her life. Drew leaves. Jason requests a favor from Elizabeth after Drew departs. Liz clarifies that Willow will be staying there, to which Jason comments that it is really nice of her. He requests that she review the records for the remains received from the GH morgue. Liz warns him that doing so could jeopardize her career. He tells her that this is unrelated to Sonny Corinthos and that she would face no repercussions. She retrieves her laptop and accesses the records, letting him to check up information. He discovers that Britt was transferred to Lawrence Mortuary. Once he has the necessary information, he expresses his thanks to Liz. She cautions him to be cautious as he leaves. Jason goes to the mortuary and discovers that there is no record of Britt being cremated. General Hospital recap Thursday, July 31st. Willow begs Michael and Jason for help, gets help from Liz. Gio and Emma plot as Joss and Vaughn talk. Gio and Emma arrive at the pool, and the dog dashes right to Vaughn. Emma wants Gio to bring the dog back, but he resists. Vaughn approaches Emma with the dog and apologizes for the incident with Joss. Emma hopes they would get along well. Joss returns and takes Vaughn away. Emma winces and informs Gio that she used Vaughn's master key to enter the lab. While with Vaughn, Joss discusses her mother's and Anna's fears. He clarifies that Jack Brennan appears to be aware of the circumstances and is removing them from the case. Martin Gray sees Drew, and the congressman informs her that Curtis is the one who disclosed his link to Willow. Curtis and Stella arrive, and he is not thrilled to see Drew. She detects his displeasure and begins talking about the wedding. Drew approaches Curtis and asks for a moment alone with him. After she departs, Drew reveals that he has realized he has many opponents. He doesn't expect them to become friends again, but he wants to suggest a truce. He even considers handing up the blackmail proof he has on Portia Robinson. They reach an arrangement. Drew's playing the long game. Willow catches Liz up upon Drew's return to Martin. The lawyer reveals how essential Stella has been. She worked miracles to secure him insurance financing when no other person could. Martin notices how courteous Drew was with Curtis, and Drew emphasizes that he wasn't proclaiming a truce. He was planning for the long run. Meanwhile, Curtis informs Stella that he and Drew have agreed to a truce. Willow eventually appears and informs Liz of the issue with Michael. She recognizes Rick Lansing was true, and that she needs demonstrate her stability to everyone. According to General Hospital spoilers, Port Charles is rife with strained family relationships, and Willow Corinthos is reported to be shoving Nina Reeves aside, while opening her heart to her great-aunt, Liesl Albrecht. Nina's errors, her affair with Drew Quartermain and subsequent falsehoods to conceal it, have hardened Willow's perspective on forgiveness, leaving her motherless and despondent. Meanwhile, Liesl, bereaved over her daughter Britt Westbourne's apparent death, is drawn to Willow's fragility. We have to question if Liesl could accidentally replace Nina in Willow's universe. Willow's unforgiving heart closes the door on Nina. Willow's inability to forgive Nina for her affair with Drew has us wondering if this mother-daughter combination has any hope of surviving in each other's lives anymore. Nina's desperate attempts to rebuild their relationship after years of mistakes fail against Willow's pain, reflecting her experience with Harmony Miller. Willow craves the consolation of her mother after losing custody of Wiley and Amelia Corinthos to Michael Corinthos, but her bitter posture keeps Nina at arm's length. Is Willow's heart too hardened to let Nina back in? Liesl steps into Willow's void. Willow may find solace with Liesl. After all, Liesl's loving words about bereavement and family are bound to strike a chord. Could Liesl's stories about Britt eventually fill the mother-shaped void in Willow's life? Liesl has longed for a daughter since Britt's death, and she may become Willow's new anchor, especially since Jason Morgan's recent glimpse of a lady who resembled Britt sparked Liesl's feelings. Nina's influence may even force Willow closer to Liesl, despite her intentions. So, will Liesl's relationship with Willow strengthen, accidentally pushing Nina aside? Will Liesl replace Nina in Willow's heart? Willow appears to be at a crossroads in her emotional life, and any growing closeness with Liesl may threaten to eclipse Nina. Will Willow's inability to forgive Nina allow Liesl to become her surrogate mother? An irony that could parallel Rocco Falconeri's struggle with Lulu Spencer and Britt? Willow had never felt so torn in her life. The walls of the Corinthos estate appeared to close in on her as she stared into Michael's eyes, silently pleading him to see the sorrow she couldn't express. Everything she had tried to hold together was falling apart. Her marriage, her peace, her hope, and the one person who had always served as her anchor was starting to drift. Michael had changed. The soft-spoken, empathic man who had once whispered promises of peace into her ear had hardened, caught up in a sea of secrecy and revenge. Willow realized that if she didn't reach him soon, she would lose him forever. Michael stood near the window with his arms crossed tightly, as if attempting to physically contain himself. The late afternoon sun sliced across his face, emphasizing the worry lines that had grown increasingly prominent during the last several months. His gaze remained fixed on the horizon, not flinching as Willow moved closer. "Michael, please," Willow pleaded, her voice barely audible. "This is not you. This is not who we are." He turned slowly, his jaw tight. "You do not understand, Willow. I am doing this for our family. For the children." Willow shook her head. "You say that, but every decision you make lately seems to push us more apart. You are shutting me out. You are making movements behind everyone's back. Jason is also involved in this, isn't he?" Michael's silence confirmed her fears. Whatever the plot was, it had gone too far, and Jason was caught up in it as well. This was perilous for all of them. She approached him and placed a nervous hand on his arm. "You are better than this. We are better than this. If you still believe in us, then quit. Let me in. Let me help you before we lose everything." Michael's lips parted, as if he wanted to answer, but something stopped him. Something dark. Something he wasn't ready to reveal. Jason Morgan sat in a frigid hospital corridor, leaning forward on a seat, his elbows resting on his knees. His hands were tightly clutched, and while his body remained quiet, his thoughts was racing. He'd had his fair share of conflicts, but this one seemed different. This was not about the business or an external danger. This was about his loved ones, and the threat came from within. Jason had returned to Port Charles to restore order, but he had not imagined the emotional turmoil that would ensue. Michael had roped him into something noble at first, protecting the family, but had subsequently devolved into a series of calculated risks that were becoming increasingly difficult to justify. And the toll was becoming clear. The sound of footsteps made him raise his head. Elizabeth Weber approached gingerly, her expression softening as she noticed the tiredness etched into his features. She had not expected to find him there, yet she was not startled. Liz always had a sixth sense for individuals in distress, particularly Jason. "Hey," she replied gently, taking a seat next to him. He looked at her and nodded once. Liz smiled weakly. "Didn't expect to see you." "That's funny because I had a feeling you'd be here." They were silent for a bit before Jason responded. "It's all getting out of hand." "You mean Michael?" Jason stared down to the floor. "Yeah. He's headed down a bad path. He believes he is protecting his family, but he is too introspective. And I'm not sure whether I can get him out." Liz placed her palm on his. "You're not doing this alone, Jason." Jason turned to face her. "You don't have to carry all of this on your shoulders. You don't know what he's done." "Maybe not," Liz said. "But I understand what you've done. I know who you are. You do not let people drown even if you are drowning yourself. That is who you have always been." This struck a chord. Jason hadn't considered it that way. For so long he'd defined himself by what he did, the lives he saved, the adversaries he vanquished, the sacrifices he performed. But Liz was correct. He did not accomplish it alone, nor did he have to. Willow stood alone in the kitchen of the Corinthos house, her eyes burning from holding back tears. The children were upstairs, unaware to the fissures in their family's foundation. She wanted to protect them from everything, but she couldn't do it alone. Michael's silence spoke volumes. He was getting deeper into his scheme, sure that it was for their protection, but Willow couldn't escape the sensation that he was being duped by remorse, fear, or even the ghosts of his father's heritage. She picked up her phone and looked at the screen. She wanted to call Jason. Maybe he can still contact Michael. Perhaps he had not gone too far yet. But she paused. Was involving Jason only making matters worse? Or was it her final hope? Her phone rang like if the universe knew what she was thinking. It was Jason. Hey, he spoke gently. Willow let out a breath. Hey, I was just thinking about you. I understand, Jason responded. Michael is shutting everyone out. I spoke to Liz. Willow closed her eyes, relieved. Thank you. I'm not sure what's going on with him, but it scares me. He's under pressure. He believes he's protecting you. But he is blind to the damage. What should we do? She asked, her voice breaking. We remind him of who he is. Together. Jason's words filled her with optimism, which she hadn't felt in weeks. He was correct. They couldn't allow Michael to spiral. He wasn't beyond salvation. Not yet. Later that evening, Jason arrived at the residence. Willow welcomed him at the entrance, her expression faint but resolute. They entered the living room, where Michael sat with papers strewn on the table and an untouched drink beside him. He looked up at them, surprised. What is this? We won't let you walk down this road alone, Willow stated firmly. Jason stepped forward. You have always trusted me, Michael. Trust me now. You're losing yourself, and you don't even realize it. Michael stood slowly, his gaze shifting between them. You don't understand. There are things I can't undo. We're not asking you to undo anything, Jason corrected him. We're asking you to stop before it gets worse. Willow took a step closer. Please. For us. For our family. We love you. But we can't stand by and watch you harm yourself. Something in Michael snapped. The mask he'd been wearing for months slipped slightly, allowing the misery to appear. He dropped his sight and said in a harsh voice. Jason placed a hand on his shoulder and said, I don't know how to fix it. We do it together. For the first time in what seemed like an eternity, Michael nodded. The mending process would not be easy. There were implications to consider and bridges to restore. But they'd taken the first step. Willow had pleaded with Michael not only as his wife, but also as his heart, and Jason had stepped in not just as an enforcer, but as a brother, a guide. And as for Liz, her quiet fortitude had reignited a fire in Jason that he thought had died. She wasn't simply aiding from the sidelines. She was right there with him, reminding him of his humanity when he was losing it. In the days that followed, Michael started to open up. He confessed to more than Willow imagined, including transactions, alliances, and dangers he'd taken. She listened, her heart heavy, but pleased that he had finally allowed her in. Jason continued to meet with him, assisting him in unraveling the more perilous threads of his plan, while Liz provided discreet support, assuring Jason did not relapse into the emotional isolation that had plagued him for years. They were doing something that seemed impossible just a few weeks ago. Fixing something broken and finding the love and trust that had brought them together to begin with. It was far from finished, but at least they were facing it together. Willow was now realizing that family doesn't always arrive in the form you expect. After everything she'd been through, cancer, bone marrow transplants, and the emotional minefield of discovering her biological mother, her world had changed in more ways than one. Nina had been that revelation. The woman who should have filled a mother vacuum in her life but instead exacerbated it with pain, betrayal, and confusion. Willow saw immediately through Nina's justifications and manipulation, no matter how many times she claimed to be acting out of love. Nina's actions caused agony that no amount of words or tears could alleviate. They left scars that would never really erase. As Willow turned her back on Nina, she found herself unexpectedly drawn to someone else. Liesl Albrecht. A woman who had previously terrified her but now offered her something much more genuine. It wasn't only that Liesl saved her life through the marrow donation. It was something deeper and unstated. Liesl's presence in her life had become consistent and dependable, which were rare in Port Charles. She wasn't pretending to be someone else. Liesl never sugar-coated the facts, and Willow appreciated her direct honesty. Their friendship began softly. A few check-ins following the transplant. Then lengthier chats in the hospital corridor. Liesl would bring tea or small European candies, not to impress but to soothe. And she listened. Really listened. Not simply the way people nodded and moved on, but the way someone does when they've experienced enough tragedy to understand that quiet is more important than words. Willow slowly opened up. She didn't mean it at first. It just happened. A remark about Wiley's drawing, a sigh about Michael's stress, and a mutter of remorse about how she dealt with Nina. Liesl never judged her. Not once. In contrast, Each conversation with Nina felt like reopening a wound. Nina pushed too hard too quickly. She wanted things to be the way they had never been. She'd turn up unexpectedly, with gifts for the kids, and make half-hearted apologies filled with emotional inducement. Willow, however, had become wiser. She saw through it. She did not want a mother who battled for her because of guilt or responsibility. She desired someone who respected limits and did not view each encounter as a test of allegiance or an opportunity for repentance. Liesl, despite her flaws and peculiarities, had never begged Willow for anything. She did not demand love or validation. She just showed there, a quiet presence with a sad past but a surprisingly compassionate nature. And perhaps that was what Willow needed most. Someone who knew how to survive the darkness, who had made peace with her demons rather than hiding behind them. Even Michael saw the shift. First, he was cautious. His memories of Liesl were not particularly pleasant. But he noticed how relaxed Willow became around her. Her shoulders lowered and her voice softened, and that was all the proof he required. Liesl gradually began attending more family gatherings, bringing her scathing wit and dry humor in little doses that made Brooklyn smirk. She didn't try to be a doting grandmother or interfere in the children's lives. She merely existed among them, a calm figure with astonishing insight. Willow felt herself reaching out to Liesl more often. When she had a rough day, Nina crossed a line, or she simply needed to scream without being judged. She had no idea she was creating a new kind of mother-daughter bond until it was already established. It was not based on blood or obligation. It was based on trust, time, and mutual respect. Liesl never attempted to replace anyone. She just became what Nina could not, a safe haven. However, the shift was not unnoticed. Nina saw it. She observed from a distance while Liesl and Willow joked over tea at the Metro Court or spent quiet moments at the hospital. It stung more than she admitted. She had always thought of Liesl as an ally and confidant. But even Liesl had limitations. Nina's machinations had frayed even this link. Liesl was not ignorant to Nina's behavior, which included keeping Willow in the dark about her parentage, staging dramas behind the scenes, and dragging everyone else into her emotional turmoil. Liesl warned her more than once. However, Nina rarely listened until it was too late. Now it was too late. Willow had decided where to invest her trust. And it was not in the woman who gave birth to her, but in the woman who supported her when everything were falling apart. Willow and Liesl's connection became stronger over time. Liesl became a quiet source of comfort during times of loss, especially when Willow talked about her birth mother Harmony and the lies she grew up believing. Liesl never excused Harmony's actions, but she also did not condemn her. She merely listened and assisted Willow in processing the information without any agenda. She knew better than anyone how hard parental relationships might be. Willow admitted something she hadn't told anybody else. She wasn't sure whether she wanted to be a mother anymore. Not in the usual sense. Too much harm had been done, and she was sick of the expectations, pressure, and guilt. Liesl merely nodded and said, "Perhaps you do not need a mother. Perhaps you just need a friend who will not forsake you when things go tough." That simple remark stayed with her. Their relationship was not without obstacles. Liesl remained Liesl, dramatic, unpredictable, and occasionally sharp-tongued. But she never used that sharpness to Willow. Instead, she supported her vehemently, particularly when Nina attempted to interfere. She urged Nina to back off, telling her frankly that healing could not be forced, and that every attempt to insert herself into Willow's life was only driving her away. Nina did not take it well. There were arguments and accusations, but Liesl held her ground. Meanwhile, Willow began to find serenity in the most unexpected places. Long chats in the cemetery where Nathan was buried, where Liesl frequently spoke to her late son as if he were still guiding her. Willow took comfort in such visits. It reminded her that pain might be transformed into strength. That sadness did not have to define you. It could unite you. Their losses differed, but their emotions were identical. Sometimes they didn't say anything. They'd sit together and watch the leaves change color or the wind blow through the trees, the silence expressing more than words could. Willow recognized she didn't have to define what Liesl had become for her. She just knew she mattered. Someone made her feel seen. As Wiley and Amelia got older, Liesl's involvement in their lives remained discreet but consistent. She didn't ask for titles. She did not demand vacations or photographs. She just showed up. She would occasionally read them German fairy tales or offer unusual candies she had collected on her travels. Willow's heart ached a little when Wiley addressed her as Aunt Liesel and grinned. She didn't miss what she never had with Nina. She'd stopped chasing it. It was pointless to grieve a bond that had never existed. Instead, she was creating something new, slower, more fragile but real. That was more than she had ever imagined. Willow wondered whether Nina would ever understand. If she could ever quit trying to control everything and let others approach her on their own terms. That was not Nina's personality. Least not yet. She needed too much too soon. Willow wasn't that girl anymore. The one longing for a connection, prepared to ignore red flags in order to feel wanted. Now she was a woman who had survived the unfathomable, rebuilt her life, and learned to distinguish between genuine love and manipulation. Liesel's encouragement had helped her get there. And in an odd twist of destiny, the woman who had once signified danger and concealment had become one of the few people she could trust completely. Their trip was still evolving. It wasn't picture-perfect or without complication, but it was honest. And in Port Charles this meant everything. Willow moved forward with a renewed sense of calm, not because she had reconciled with her past, but because she had chosen her future. Liesel Albrecht, of all individuals, had become an unexpected but much valued member of it.